One. Okay, guys. So today we're going to release another podcast, and this is again a little bit of a special one due to obviously the whole stuff, the situation with the coronavirus. And this podcast is somewhat selfish because I'm looking for this information as well. So I'm looking to learn in this situation, and I'm hoping that by the end of this conversation, people in the fitness industry, you know, if you are a business owner, maybe you work for a gym, maybe you are related to the fitness industry, you're working in the fitness industry, this is something unprecedented that you probably haven't experienced before. Like, I know a lot of people are new or relatively new in the fitness industry in terms of they're in their 20s, maybe 30s. And, you know, the last recession, financial crisis was like 2008. So you may not have experienced that situation or a situation like this. So I'm not a business expert, so I'm going to refer to someone that is a business expert, and that is why we are bringing on Phil Graham here. So Phil, take it away. Who are you? What do you do? And how can you help effectively?
I'm good, Paddy. Thank you so much for having me on. I know how much time it takes to put these podcasts together and contribute, and from what I've heard, you guys are doing a great job of that. So long story short, today I just want to provide a straight up, no nonsense, sort of rapid response support, help, advice, and some key nuggets for the trainers out there, gym owners out there. Long story short, I've been in the fitness industry. I'm 32 now. I've been in it since I've been literally 19. Had quite a journey, being the whole way from personal trainer to one of the first online coaches in the UK to author to building communities in the world of diabetes, helping out in education, and gradually and naturally and organically drifted into the whole business realm because I had so many coaches that used to come and train with me as a personal trainer. And I went into the business realm because they were wanting to know how to attract more clients, grow their business, etc. So that's the short on me. Let's talk about the big priority. So we've got a situation on our hands that nobody knows how to deal with. Two, there's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of panic. And when you put the facts together, here's the reality. A lot of businesses are shutting down. A lot of the public don't want to mingle with other people. And as a result of that, they are keeping their distance, not going to gyms, not turning up for the personal training sessions. So gyms are at risk of closing. Personal trainers are at risk of losing a gym to train out of. And clients are also not attending the gym or the personal training session. So you've got a whole mix of things going on. And personal trainers don't whether they're coming or going. Gym owners don't know whether they're coming or going. They don't know whether they're going to stay open. And there's a whole go of lingo right now. So there's a massive amount of uncertainty. And I think a couple of things that you've really got to bear in mind with this whole situation right now is that you've really got to guard your inputs in terms of what you're looking at, right? I did a ruthless cull of my Facebook the other day. Anything that I see that is just throwing my mind or making me think in a different way that's negative, or anything that's sort of like a joke with a jag or anything like that, I'm just eliminating as I go, right? I think mental health and clarity and perspective is a big thing right now, and speed of implementation as well. And when you're clouded with all these mixed messages of misinformation from people that don't respect the science, don't respect the facts, there's a very high chance that you're going to get caught up in that, get caught up in your head, and going to think that you're going to go broke. Right? So you've got to really switch on your executive ender and get focused on what can you do with the time, the resources that you have available. So I'm going to let you pick apart questions, scenarios, and stuff like that. The broad perspective is we have a situation right now. It's relatively serious in terms of what it's going to do for our health as individuals. I think that needs to be covered first because everybody's worried about their fucking income. Everybody's worried about their clients, but they're not actually looking at themselves. There is a potential, if you have an underlying health condition, that this thing will potentially cause issues. And a big thing you've got to look at first is making sure that you are protected against this virus. Because if you get the virus and you get a cold, you've then got double the problems, right? So we're all in this sort of like risk protection thing right now in terms of like how can we protect our business? Think about first protecting yourself. Then you can go into looking at the business stuff. Right, so I think general hygiene. I'm not going to preach to the choir. You know more about this stuff than me. General hygiene, looking after yourself first, immune system, all that kind of stuff. Then it's into the business. So I'm going to let you fire a few questions. We're live here on Instagram as well. I know we're getting a lot of questions here, but guys, if you're listening, listen up to the questions, and I'm going to try and work with the two platforms. So Paddy, fire away questions or scenarios in terms of what you want to ask me. And I'm sure I'll go off on some tangents, but I'll keep some structure to it.
So the first question, because we did a little poll on Instagram and stuff already, and this was people are basically looking for leadership, right? And it relates directly to what you're saying there. First, like, you need to look after your own health, because if you look after your own health, by extension, you're looking after everyone's health, right? So with this, the question we got a lot was, like, should I stay open? Like, should I be open? Now, obviously, this is a question that, like, you can't give the answer. You can't tell the exact thing that someone needs to do. But people right now, they're looking at government guidelines. They're listening to other business owners. They're maybe worried. They're like, if I don't stay open, then my cash flow is gone. You know, my business is potentially gone. So how do people navigate that first initial thing? Like, should they stay open? Because obviously, you know, if you have a private studio or whatever, you could potentially stay open. You know, maybe your clients come. So how do you navigate that?
Here's the way I know that. Things that we've got to consider. We have a mix of gym owners saying to themselves, should I stay open or should I close? Now, the problem with staying open is this. You've got a proportion of members that want to train and don't care. You've then got a proportion of members that do not want to come to the gym and subsequently don't feel the value in paying rent and may have lost their job and are trying to protect their income. So you're then in a scenario where you've got smaller numbers and you've sort of got this mixed bag of emotions. You know what to do, and then you're paying rates and rents on top of that. So the problem with that is that if you're keeping it open for some people, it's going to take up your time and resources, which means that the people who don't want to train, who are scared to train, you can't serve. On top of that, you've got clear indication that you're still operating a business and can still operate a profit, right? We had a gym owner in one of our boardroom groups that's still running with 150 members strong. Majority of the members are still showing up. They're busy, right? We've had other ones that have had like a 70% don't want to be there, 30% want to be there. So here's the way I see it. If you're going to stay open, you've got to be prepared for a proportion of your clients that aren't going to be there. And you've got to weigh up your costs, your rates, your rents versus the people that do want to stay there versus the people that don't. Now, the beauty of closing is that you put all memberships on pause. You also let your landlord know that you're not utilizing the building, and you approach them and you ask them, can I pause the rates or the rent? And that in turn gives breathing space. And in respect to that, when you pause that, you can get the clients and leverage them into a Facebook group. We're proactively encouraging trainers to do that now and run home workouts and community build and stuff like that. And the support from your community or your clients is going to be really, really extreme with that. There'll be the odd dickhead that says they want a refund or they want to do this or they want to do that. But the reality is, if you ask a particular group, hey guys, look, if you want the gym to still be there when you quit or when this is all over, here's what it's going to cost for the month in respect to it. And it's a discounted fee. And it's still bringing some cash flow. One of our clients, inside boardroom, did that and literally generated over 4K within the space of a day, and all his clients were very supportive of it, right? So that's an option where you can go to the landlord and say, look, I'm going to have to shut up business, and the landlord, the last thing they want is to cripple your business so that means that you can't stay there, and then they have to look for another tenant inside the midst of this chaos. So you've got to look at it as a win-win, and you've got to look at how can you leverage the situation, right? On the other hand, if you're going to stay open, a lot of people are worried about how they're going to look in the community if they stay open. Here's the fucking thing. Nobody in a year's time is going to go, well, Paddy stayed open for 7 extra days in the coronavirus. What a money grabbing bastard, right? That's inside your own head. If it's legally allowed to be open, you're following the right procedures, you're keeping people's health, get on with operating. But again, you got to weigh up the proportion of people that are staying versus the people that aren't. And it's an entirely individual context specific situation. But that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, like 100%. Like that's kind of what I've been saying too. Like obviously I'm in an area, where there are a lot of gyms and there are a lot of individuals doing like, they have private facilities, like all the gyms pretty much, like the big box gyms, whatever, they've pretty much closed down. But obviously there's a lot of facilities around that are smaller studios or, you know, more CrossFit style gyms. And a lot of them have been able to stay open, either offering reduced classes, like because obviously they can't get over 100 or whatever, and they normally have busy classes, or reduced timetable. Maybe they only do 2 classes per day now, rather than the normal 50 or whatever it was they were doing beforehand. And effectively, like, it's actually, I actually think it's quite refreshing seeing how much the community has like kind of come together and been like, okay, how can we all support each other? The whole fit fam or whatever you want to call it, or like, okay, we're all in this situation together. We all realize that. Like, how can we support each other and how can we serve our clients well at this time? And I think that ultimately is the answer to that question. It's like, how can you best serve your clients at this time, about managing their health? Because again, we are in the health and fitness industry. Like, yeah, some people don't, you know, think of it like that, but like, we are part of the health and fitness industry. Yeah, we're not nurses. Yeah, we're not doctors. Yeah, we're not any of those things, but we should have a duty of care to people's health at this time. So you effectively, as a business owner, again, looking at what people are doing around here, you just have to look out for how you can serve your clients, and you have to make a call if staying open actually doesn't serve your clients long term, because you're compromising or potentially compromising their health and the health of those around them, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And it is one of those things where you've got to look at, right, you know, if the vast majority of people want to stay at home and I'm only keeping it with these, there's a time gap of, like, you know, nurturing that client and keeping them inside the community. So it really is an inter-individual situation that needs to be weighed up. And, you know, there's no right or wrong here. It's, you know, entirely context specific. But, you know, at the end of the day, like, let's look at what's happening right now is everybody's trying to build home workouts, right? Like, I'm seeing home workouts fucking everywhere, right? And yes, that's a valid option. We're also seeing people doing large group workouts, you know, outside on the beach, in parks, all that kind of stuff. Look, the need for people's fitness is never, ever, ever going to disappear, right? People are always going to want to train. And like I've said, you got to look at, right, what is the perspective in this situation in terms of how can you actually see opportunity in it? The fitness industry and the beauty industry are two industries that normally never, ever, ever take a massive hit during a recession or during a time where they always want to feel good. Like, period, we are going to have a lot of people sitting about inactive, bored, that ultimately are going to need a gym after this. So this time period is allowing people to have the time to study, sharpen their tools, and build the systems to facilitate greater clients, okay, at the end of the day. And most fit pros don't really have a business. They've got a hobby with a few spreadsheets put together and they wing it, right?
This
So
actually
that's a
goes
big,
on.
big thing.
This actually goes on nicely to the kind of next question, right? And this, when you discuss this, you kind of seem like a bit of a scumbag to an extent. But I'm basically going to preface this and saying, like, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is right now, you know? So when we're discussing that, just keep that in mind. But the question effectively that we got in a few times and different people were, yeah, cash flow is actually not an issue right now. Like, obviously they're not maybe getting cash in, or their clients maybe aren't you know, coming to classes or whatever, but they have a reserve of cash. They have 3, 6, 12 months of cash saved up, and they're closed now. They've said to their clients, look, we're putting you on pause. We're doing whatever. We'll support you. You know, here's some home workouts you can do, whatever, right? But cash is not an issue right now. How can someone use this time productively to, you know, 10x their business? Right. Like, how can they use the 2-week lockdown to be like, right, what's going wrong with my business, or how can I come out of this, you know, the 2 weeks off better?
Yeah, well, let's look at the perspective. First of all, personal trainers and gym owners are known for being notoriously overpaying too much time in their business, right? So in the grand scheme of things, this is giving a lot of people the opportunity to keep their foot off the gas and actually go and work on things like their onboarding process, their sales, the areas that they're weak. I can't, specifically go in and say where everyone's weak, but generally with personal trainers, they don't know what a system is, and they also don't know how to sell. And those kind of things can be worked on, and you're equipping yourself with the skills to build future wealth. Making a decision out of fear is probably one of the worst things that you can do. It's easy done, but when you make a decision out of fear in business, you install fear into the construct of that decision and that action, and that ultimately then manifests in a problem later on, right? So the worst thing that you can do right now is bury your head and feel sorry for yourself. You may need a period of doing that in order to find yourself and find out what you need. There's nothing wrong with, like sitting here and thinking for a bit. But the grand scheme is you should be using that time to look at customer journey. What happens in it a customer joins? What are they given? What are they provided with? Looking at your target market, looking at all the marketing angles that you've been using to date, what has been working and what hasn't been working. Looking at your sales stuff, working on your personal development. In the grand scheme of things, Patty, right, this is like a couple of weeks, right? In the grand scheme of your whole entire life, this is merely a blip. And there's a lot of lessons here that I think business owners really need to understand. Is that number one, you definitely need to have cash on hand. And that should be a priority in terms of saving. I always hammer on about forced savings with our clients and making sure that they've got rainy day money. Granny was right. You need rainy day money. Number two, this is forcing a lot of personal trainers who have been so busy working in their business to work on their business and take time out to build it. Like, we're not going to be like sanctioned or incubated for years here, right? It's a short blip in a period of time. So, in many ways, shapes and forms, it's going to allow personal trainers to solidify their service, solidify their sales, solidify their mental health, and actually get a rest from the business that they always wanted. And let's face it, most personal trainers are cash rich anyway. So they've got plenty of time to regather their clients. And a big, big thing to realize in all this is that nobody has done anything wrong. It's not as if you've offended someone or disserviced someone. The fact of the matter is that everybody's in the same situation. And you could be in an awful lot worse situation. If you are going through a period of panic right now, where you're thinking about losing your house, losing your home, and these are all thoughts that come into your head, just stop for a second and realize that you don't own a restaurant with maybe 20 or 30 staff, and you haven't got rates, you haven't got rent, you haven't got taxes, you haven't got loads of this stuff that those service industries have, where people are being able to stay indoors, yet they're open and have a fuel thing. So, it's about getting perspective as to where you're at and thinking about each day as you go. But I mean, those are the general concepts that trainers should be working on. I really, really would highly recommend that, as well, you focus on marketing and messaging and building your audience, because there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on screen right now. But I would also as well have healthy doses of social media. I have got a specific amount of time that I spend on social media every day. If I go beyond that, it's problematic for my mental health. And I'm sure you're the same. There's only so much that you can consume. You don't want to be like a computer with so many windows open, and you don't want to try to be as least reactive as possible. You're going to be more reactive if you're dipping in, checking things. You've got no structure, you've got no discipline. Process leads to freedom, right? That's a big, big thing to teach. If you've got process in your personal life, if you've got process in your business, then you're going to feel a lot more controlled, right? So maybe a lot of the personal trainers listening need to build some process in your life, in your personal life.
100%. Like you said, most personal trainers, again, depending on how long they've been in the industry, where they are, et cetera, they probably have some cash on hand that, they can weather this, whether they have some savings in the bank or whether they do actually just have literal cash, because, personal trainers, they will literally have cash on hand. People will probably in the industry have some money to at least weather out a few weeks of this, So I'm looking at this from the perspective of, okay, so how can we service the people that follow us, our community, our tribe, whatever you want to call them, and obviously look after our, clients, the paying customers, make sure they're getting a good service right now. They have a plan of action. They know where we are. This is one of those things as well, where, it's almost a forced period of time where you have to work on your communication. you know, where it's like, you have to be able to talk to your client, like understand that they have fears, they have worries, they have whatever, and being able to reassure them or assure them or whatever you want to call it, of what's going on with your business, what's going on with their health and fitness journey, like what should they be focusing on. Like there's obviously, like, people don't know how to train when they're at home. They haven't done it. They've only ever learned to train in the gym, or, you know, they haven't sat at home all day. They don't have an at-home business themselves, so now they're not in the office, and, you know, they don't know how to structure their diet, they don't know how to structure their day. So it is an opportunity now for you as a coach, as a trainer, whatever, to work on your communication skills, work on the service that you provide to these individuals that you are helping on their fitness journey. But I think one of the best things you could do at this time is to reach out to other individuals, either who have gone through stuff like this, or like yourself. This is why we got you on, someone who is actually in the weeds of helping people with their business. You know, like, you've seen all these things before. You know, maybe you haven't seen this exact situation, because realistically no one has, but you've seen the problems that occur in people's businesses. You can see this flaw. It's almost as if, like, you're getting a coach to coach you through a physique transformation. Now it's like, you should look for that for your actual business. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go out and buy a service, or, you know, get a mentor or anything like that, but you can use the resources that are available: YouTube videos, books, ebooks, PDFs, whatever. Talk to other individuals like yourself, and look at your business in a non-emotional way, and be like, right, if I had 2 weeks of free time and there was no lockdown or whatever, like, how would I have used that to better my business? And effectively just use that time what you would have done if you had 2 weeks free in your normal time, and use that now to better your business at the end of this.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be a proportion of people that will use the time really reflect, and then there'll be a proportion of people that, and let's be real here, there's going to be a lot of, you know, people spouting off, oh, there's a lot of opportunity in this and stuff like that, right? Yeah, a lot of opportunity, but also there's a lot of risk. And it's really important that you are evaluating sort of where you are in that spectrum, right? Because if you are in a situation, and some people will be, where you've been living month to month and there is a high level of risk and financial volatility, then you do need to, in many ways, shapes and form, you know, be proactive in terms of how can you generate revenue, safeguard revenue, et cetera, and focusing on that. If you have got cash on hand and you have got that time and availability to do things, then look for the opportunity. But if your main focus right now is survival, there's nothing wrong with that. Do not, like, you're going to get a lot of real, like, stupid, like, personal development loaded young entrepreneurs and trainers saying, look at the opportunity. Like, you know, if you've got a fucking mortgage to pay and you've got kids to look after, you've got to be proactive, right? It's only, to be honest, the opportunity in these situations is more predominantly whenever you get distance and perspective from a time period. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It can be quite hard for you to see the opportunity now amidst the chaos. Look at that, you know, and base it entirely on where you're at right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%, you know, and this kind of does then just go, like, dovetail nicely into the next question, which is, you know, I think most people, if this is a 2-week situation, you know, it's like, 2 weeks, you know, okay, some people lost their jobs, you know, it is maybe a recession or something like that. There's a lot of fear, right? But 2 weeks, most people will be able to weather that. I think a lot of people, and again, it was reflected in the questions we got, are worried that if this goes on for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, you know, maybe even a few months on top of that, they don't really know how to go about, you know, keeping their business afloat. And do they restructure their business? Do they move it all online? Like, if they were an in-person trainer, do they move all towards, like, home workouts, like selling home workout ebooks or whatever? I think there's a lot of fear around, obviously, the uncertainty of how long this is going to last. So, like, exactly what you're saying, like, we don't want to be in this reactive, emotional state when looking at the business. Like we want to look at it from the perspective of like, would I have done this if this wasn't the situation? Like, would I have done this with my business if this wasn't the coronavirus, the fucking COVID-19, whatever, like, is this a good business decision overall, So what would you recommend for people if this does start going beyond that kind of 2-week, maybe 4-week mark, if it starts going into that kind of 8 weeks, 12 weeks, couple of months mark? Like how do people conceptualize what to do with their business?
Yeah, I suppose the big question is right now is how long is this going to last? And nobody has certainty. Nobody has got control, right? So I think the is sort of like prepare for what are my expenses going out? Get really clear on that number. Get really clear on what cash reserves that you have, and get really clear on what revenue you can create. Because let's face it, it's not like everybody's going to be locked in a house and be unable to leave. You're definitely going to be able to make sales. Like we had guys yesterday make sales for 6-month programs, 3-month programs. I think the big shift is going to be in respect to keeping a community of people together, giving them leadership, giving them accountability, giving them mindset, and really just inspiring hope. But you've also got to bear in mind that you as a personal trainer are not necessarily somebody who's focused in their life. You're skilled at whether that's keeping their immune system, whether that's giving them hope and inspiration. A lot of personal trainers are that vehicle, that body for many other clients. So I think, sort of asking yourself sort of like, how long do I need to prepare for this? What if it's 3 months, 6 months? I mean, what are your options? Your options are simple. Leverage into a Facebook group, deliver it online, deliver it digitally, home workouts, mindset, community building, keep going with that. Outdoor workouts, limited numbers, beach, boot camp style stuff. Like that's really all that you can do in that respect. If you're, depending on who you are and what skills you have, you could write a book, you could write an ebook, you could create an online course, you could create a certification. Like these are people with different sort of strings to their bows beyond personal trainers. Like, a lot of people are going to be sitting at home, they want to consume information. It's not like it's Armageddon, it's like the end of the world, right? I mean, you could create a course and build it as you go. You know what I mean? Like you could really some module page where you're teaching theory or you're teaching some kind of insight. And the way you would frame that is, this is going to equip you with these skills that you can use to help you with this and also set you up for when you come out, right? And I think as well, like, out of all of this as well, it's going to, massively promote connections, collaborations. I think people are going to get to spend some time with their family and their loved ones that they never really got. So, let's not just look at it from a business and a wealth perspective. Let's look at perspective. Normally in times of chaos as well, it's normally when individuals find themselves as well, and they get to ask themselves some proper questions when the shit hits the fan, right? You really get to reevaluate. You get to really reevaluate what's important in your life, and that then sets up the vehicle for a lot of other things. You may find in this that there's some personal trainers or gym owners that have not been enjoying the career that suddenly get, fuck, this is my opportunity to go out. You may find that there's people in employment that go, fuck, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be a PT, right? So, it's like a global reset, But,
yeah. I think it is, like, ultimately, like, and this is whenever anyone says it, it always sounds so airy, wishy-washy. But right now, it's like the most important thing is your mindset with this whole thing. And I don't even mean that of like, oh, see this as an opportunity, like how can you make money or whatever. It's like, no, see this as an opportunity so that you can, like you said, this is a global reset. We now have the opportunity to, maybe change our path with our business, our career, maybe change our path with the structure of our lives. Maybe you realize you're like, oh, actually, I really do love these people. I would like to spend more time with them. you know, I got 2 weeks of spending time with them. Maybe that would be a good thing if I could, you know, have 2 days off per week to spend time with these people that, you know, I haven't seen my kid grow up for the last 3 years because I've been doing 100 hours of PT per week. You know, it's like, you know, those kind of things. I'm like, now is the time to get your mindset in a good place, like have a vision for you as an individual. And like, yeah, secondary to that is like have a mindset and a vision for your business, you know, but that's effectively just facilitating your growth as a human being. Like, you know, maybe your overall vision and whatever is like, I want to help as many people as possible. And it's like, okay, if that's truly what you say your mission is, it's like, how do you now use this global reset to actually set up a business, set up a lifestyle, set up your individual life to actually accomplish that, you know? Because I think a lot of people are going to do a lot of self-reflection over the coming days and then realize they're like, yeah, fuck, man, my life isn't in a place that I wanted it to be, you know? And like I always say it, it's like you can fail at what you don't want just as easy as you can fail at what you do want, you know? So you might as well do the thing that you want to do. Like a lot of people, like I know a lot of people that have had really good jobs. Like one of my friends down the road, he's a pilot, right? And he's lost his job now. And like, that was a good job. He had been doing that for fucking years, but his business now, it's the travel industry, you know, he's out of a job, you know? And it's like, and that was something he loves. But I can imagine if you are someone that's in a job that, yeah, it pays well, it pays the bills, whatever, you don't really enjoy clocking in, you don't want to do whatever. And now you're left in a situation, it's like, yeah, you just got made redundant. And rather than just seeing all the negativity in that, and that's not to minimize the negativity in that, like obviously you've bills to pay, family to feed, etc. But how do you use that? Like you always say, like, how do you leverage that into, you know, getting better going forward with this?
Yeah, 100%. You know, a lot of opportunities are going to be opened. You know, after this, the world still needs travel. The world still needs pilots. Let's look at the real harsh reality. If a lot of businesses are wiped out, there's considerably less competition for a lot of people. You know what I mean? So if considerably less competition for personal trainers, gyms, then that's going to make the business thrive again, and people are going to have to wait. So, like, you know, the industry was oversaturated. It pretty much is. It'll clean out a lot of trainers. And you've got to face facts. There's no point in putting an airy fairy brush on it. It's survival of the fittest right now, right? And the ones that are going to survive are the ones that are the ones building in the background, the ones strategically planning, and the ones that aren't making decisions out of fear, that are making decisions out of vision, not fear. You know, like, you're going to get a few people that are going to shit themselves, but like, I can urge everybody on this call, or everybody on this webinar, or everybody on this live thing, that if you're going to make a decision out of fear, you're fucked. If you make a decision out of vision, that's long game. That's the way to think as a seasoned entrepreneur. 100%. You know, like, everybody seems to think acutely in terms of like expenses and like situations, and not look at big picture. You know what I mean? Like, so being around people right now that are sharing ideas, that are collabing, that are, you know, driving community, that are doing the things that you want to do, that is essential right now. You're going to need that more than ever, right? Because outside of that, you're just left your own devices, and that's on it's never accurate.
Yeah, 100%. And this is actually something.
So, any other pointers or considerations?
Yeah, just on that last point, this is something I've seen, like, from like your group, your tribe, whatever. You can see individuals like banding together. You can see them being like, okay, we have 2 weeks off. How do we service our community? How do we service each other? You know, like, how do we make sure both our businesses are, you know, in a good place going forward? And ultimately, I'm like, as I said earlier on, I really enjoy how the Fit Fam, or whatever you want to call it, have really like glued together, come together at this time to help both the people that they're supposed to be serving, but also each other, you know? And ultimately, like, that is what we need to do at this time. Like, again, like, yeah, we want to clear out some of the riffraff or whatever, you know, the lower level trainers who, just don't give a shit. They didn't have their business set up correctly because realistically they just didn't give a shit, but also we want to help the individuals that, they
well,
have.
I think a big important point to highlight on that, Paddy, is like most people running a fitness business aren't entrepreneurs and don't have a business mindset. They've literally fallen in love with training and started charging for it, right? Like, let's be real here. So, it's just highlighting the importance of building a great business, okay? And a business that has got the infrastructure and the foundations to last, right? A business, anybody, like I put a post up the other day, right? Like, anybody can do business. Anybody can set up a business and, run the business when the weather's good. It's only real pros that thrive in unfair conditions, that are able to outwit the storm. And if you think about it, if you're building your business now and you're building all this infrastructure and systems into it, just imagine how impenetrable it's going to be, like, in due course. You're going to be able to handle more client volume. You're going to be more responsive to market fluctuations, and stuff like that. So, like, I just want to inspire everybody on this that is worrying right now that, look, if you've got cash on standby, really use this time wisely and stop thinking about revenue. Think relationships over revenue. Secondly, if you're in a situation right now and you don't have cash on standby, right, and you're on the breadline and you're worried about going under, first things first, get perspective. I think it's very easy for me to say, don't panic and don't do this and that. First thing is to get perspective. One, you could have coronavirus. Okay, and you could be in a lot worse situation. Two, you could be in a tremendously worse situation with that. You could already be bankrupt. You could have a large team of people underneath you. So I think you've got to look at, right, what can I control right now, right? What can I do? What can I set up? What can I cut? What can I put off, right? When you go through the questions and start filtering, you're taking action instead of just freezing. And, for those that are on the breadline and stuff like that, please appreciate that you're not the only person there, right? There are going to be certain buffers that are going to help from the government, as little as they may be. You've got to look at what can you utilize, what can you use. If you look at any great, like, leader or entrepreneur, they have all come from massive adversity, right? And I think the big thing that you've got to realize is that, look, once you've got love in your life, once you have got a bed to sleep in, a roof over your head, you've got some kind of connections and you've got food and water, like, everything else is entertainment, and realize that this is not permanent. This is not permanent in your life. And I know that sounds quite broad, but the reality is it's a very inter-individual situation, and I can't go into specifics for that. But, look at all the other stuff that's happened in your life and you're still okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a good place to kind of wrap it up, unless you have any other questions that were asked on the Instagram Live, or if there's any other topics that you want to just touch on before people go. And if there isn't, go on.
Yeah. We've had quite a few on this Instagram Live. But yeah, I think, like,
because it is a broad thing. Like, obviously, like, you can't dive into specifics and be like, this is what you should do for your specific business. Like, if that's the case, people want that, I'm sure they can get a mentoring call with you and discuss that stuff, not to be like,
yeah, I mean, like my main focus right now is my tribe, my clients, and making sure that they're protected, making sure that they're safe. And, like, I think the big like concern above everybody's head. And I have a lot of friends in different industries because I work in the business sector. I've had friends from gym manufacturing companies with teams of 40 and 50. I've had restaurant owners, pub owners, all kind of stuff, like, going, Phil, what the fuck? Like help. We're all in the same boat, yeah. Right? Let's literally run through the facts right now to close this off. Facts and then perspective, right? So facts are this. Consumers are scared. The last thing that they're focusing on right now is a six-pack, right? The first thing that they're focusing on is, how can I not get the coronavirus, give it to my mom, give it to my granny, and how can I stay alive? Number one. Number two, there is a potential for revenue to take a dip at this moment. The reality is, zoom out, get perspective, stop thinking month on month. If you zoom out and get perspective and you look at any market, you're into stocks and shares, you will know that there's volatilities in it, right? If you're able to ride out a volatility and still operate and function, it builds mental maturity, calmness, and literally just focus. As an entrepreneur, if you think that your life is going to be like no challenge, all praise, all good, you're fucked, right? So if you're able to handle this rut and this volatility, without a shadow of a doubt, you're going to be a stronger, smarter, more resilient entrepreneur. Number 3, process leads to freedom. Look at your day right now. Are you waking up super reactive, going like getting your coronavirus updates off Lad Bible, right? You know, if you're going and doing that, then you're a fucking idiot. Guard your inputs like your life depended on it. So like my routine, like today, up first thing in the morning, I don't do any of this like 5 o'clock bullshit. I get up at 7:30 just so that everybody knows, right? Because I go to bed a little bit later, and if I go to bed late, I'm not getting up at 5 o'clock, fucked. Sometimes that changes. I get up in the morning, and the first thing that I do is I go for a walk or I go for a run. I think and I walk and I talk, right? So if you see me like at like 8 o'clock in Hillsborough, like just talking to myself, yes, right? I'm not on drugs, talking to myself. I'll then meditate for about 20 minutes. I'll then journal my thoughts and map out my day. Sometimes I have the day mapped out the day before, but I'm a disciplined, not regimented person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't like, if I find that I'm super disciplined, super regimented, and that goes off, it affects focus. So I work on myself first before I get into my day. And then I've got checklists and tasks, and I make sure that I don't overload that. I make sure that I've got clear outcomes for the day. I've got clear people that I need to communicate. I've got clear metrics that I need to do for my own health, and I work through that. And I like to see things ticked off. In between, when I'm doing tasks, I don't dip into social media. One of the worst things that you can do is when you're in a period of focus is having your phone beside you, is dipping into social media. And especially at this period of time, when you're sort of a little bit anxious anyway, and then you're dipping in, right? On top of that process, number 4, get comfortable with losing clients. Get comfortable with potentially losing your business. Now, this is a more deeper mindset thing, but I've already worked on myself to the perspective of I'm comfortable with losing it all. Why am I comfortable with losing it all? That boils down to identity and who I am as an individual. I look at where I've come from and where I am now, and I've built it all with my own hands. I can do that again. So that's a really, really deep level of acceptance as to the situation. And I think everybody that's listening to this right now actually needs to go, am I comfortable with losing everything and rebuilding it? That's a true test of a leader, true test of character, right? That's not uncomfortable, or that's not comfortable, and it's not something that we want, but let's face the facts here. There is a potential for loss, and you have to get comfortable with that loss. You have to, again, operate from vision and not operate from circumstance.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. There's a lot of people, when we talk about personal development, right? The thing that really fucks me off about personal development is it's all like, read the Daily Stoic, like read Think and Grow Rich. The last time I checked, there was a lot of fucking poor people in the world, right? Here's what you need to do. You need to go through a chaotic period in your life. You need to ask really good questions, and you've got to feel it in your right? So this is where you get a lot of your, and it's so fucking easy to play the victim and all this stuff. Why is this happening to me? This isn't fair, etc., right? You know, if people looked at actually what they had in their lives and actually dissected it, like, you know, we could be in Africa right now with weakened immune systems and a mud hut, right? You know, we could be in the middle of a political war. Like, you don't have a clue the other stuff that goes on the other side of the world, right? So, like, just getting really, really focused on where you're at. The next thing is to keep around really good people. Keep around smart people, objective thinkers, right? You know, I like to hear the good and I like to hear the constructive, right? I don't like to hear the yapping. Like, you know, I've got a lot of friends in America. We've got a virtual meeting later on today, and it's all about, right, how can we do better? How can we resolve? How can we correct? How can we utilize? There's a different language spoke, right? The other one is, don't be afraid to have let off a bit of steam. I think that, you know, to put on this whole macho sort of, I'm not affected, I'm going to get through much opportunity. Yeah, that works for a while. To vent a little bit. Don't be minimizing or criticizing yourself if you need to vent, right? You know, let me think. Use the time wisely. Read, consume, sharpen the axe. You know, look after your family, look after your parents, look after your loved ones, and ask yourself some deep, meaningful questions. You know, like I always ask the questions: how is this serving me? How is this making me better? Like I have that question tattooed on my soul. I ask that every time I run into a challenge, right? And that's just on repetition. And there's a lot of people that aren't asking good enough questions right now. You know, there's people that are, you know, I put up a post the other day. What is this teaching you, or what advantage was this? And you get like somebody coming, and there's no advantage in this. It's a worldwide catastrophe, whatever. I'm like, yeah, well, fuck, your mindset's great.
Yeah, it's like, what are you going to do with this? Like,
yeah, like, fuck, you know, imagine being in your fucking household, right? Like, you know, I know that I want to be amongst fucking people that are going, how can we grow from this? How can we make amongst those people? I want to be amongst people ending and doing fuck all, right? And there are people in far worse situations than us in the restaurant trade and the service trade, right? Like, I feel for those guys. And a big pressure there is like letting their team down because their team rely on them. And that's a challenging one, right? So, you know, look, we've got to get our perspective in shape. We've got to prioritize our daily actions, realize that process leads to freedom, and, you know, literally be comfortable with losing revenue and be comfortable with a quiet period, but also making sure that, look, we're not necessarily being, you know, we're not putting as many hours into the day or the week as we were during this time period. How can I actually rest or recharge or reevaluate or rethink, you know?
Yeah, so, I think all of that is just good general advice. Like whether you are listening to this as like a personal trainer, nutritionist, coach, whatever, but if you're just listening to this as a lay person as well, it's like that's that sort of stuff. You need to do that at this time right now. Like you should be managing your inputs. You should be, you know, having some structure to your day. You should be doing all of the stuff you just said there, you know, and it's just good general advice, and it leads to you being a better human, full stop, not just a better business person or whatever. It's like, and ultimately, like, that's what we're all here to do. We just want to be a better human at the end of the day, you know, and if you can do something each day to get better, it's like, well, you've won the day, you know?
Yeah, 100%. So guys, look, I hope that's been useful. I hope there's been some nuggets in that. And just general, like, you know, whenever I do podcasts like this, I want to portray thinking rather than just sometimes tactics. So yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity.
No problem at all. So where can people find you? Like, I'm going to have it all linked below, so you don't need to go in depth, but like where if people are looking for you, where are they?
This long monthly blogs on phil-graham.com, Instagram, philgraham01. And we have loads of free resources for Fit Pros, webinars, downloadables, you name it. We're working on some stuff right now. So yeah, phil-graham.com, Fitness Entrepreneur Podcast, Phil Graham on Instagram. Please feel free to follow all the stuff I put out. Personal development, wealth. That's my main focus.
Perfect. And again, it'll all be linked below, so you don't even need to search it up. You'll just click the link below. Anyway, we'll wrap it up there. I hope you got something from that, guys. And again, like, your comments, your thoughts, whatever, are always welcome. Wherever you're seeing this, viewing this, listening to this, you can get in contact with us and let us know your feedback. And I do genuinely recommend, you know, getting in contact with the likes of Phil and other people that are putting out good information at this time to help you ensure that you have a business in the weeks, months, years to come, you know, because if you get it right now, again, like, you weather this storm, you've set yourself up in an unbeatable position, because, you know, this is probably the biggest thing you faced. And if you can beat this, it's like, that's a confidence booster at the very least, you know? Anyway, I'm just going to wrap this up here, and I hope you all got something from that, guys.